Milton Friedman was a world-renowned economist. He's known for saying, "There's no free lunch." But listen to what he actually said about that.
I have sometimes been known as associated with the aphorism, "There's no such thing as a free lunch," which I did not invent. I wish there were more attention paid to one that I did invent and that I think is particularly appropriate in this city, and that's that nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as he spends his own.
One of the first things I think of when I think there is no free lunch is the difference between the apparent or sticker price and the actual cost of something. For example, if you go to buy a house today, the average house price is about $400,000, and at 6% interest on a 30-year mortgage, you're not going to pay $400,000 for the house. John, tell us what we're actually going to pay.
The monthly payment on a 30-year mortgage at 6% interest, $400,000, is going to be $2,398 every month. You add those payments up over the course of 30 years, you're going to end up paying $863,000 for this house. You're going to pay more in interest than the original value of the house.
So that's why a lot of people say, well, you need to do a 15-year mortgage so you don't pay all that interest and add up the actual price of your house. And
it will save you money on the volume of interest that you're paying, but that's going to come at the cost of cash flow. If we have a $400,000 mortgage at 6% for 15 years, your monthly payment's going to be $3,375 a month.
So that brings up something about opportunity cost, which is also part of there's no free lunch. If we spend money today on something, then we give up something that we could have had. And in the case of a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, we're giving up the opportunity to save that difference and have it compound for us. Actually recover the cost of interest on a 30-year mortgage.
And you can recover at least a part of that interest, depending on how often you use the money over those the initial 15 years or the next 15 years, since you're going with the 30-year mortgage, you can recover all of it or potentially more than all of it. But here's how it works. You take your 15-year mortgage payment would have been $3,375. The 30-year mortgage payment would have been $2,398. If you take the difference between those two, it's about $977. If you put that away into a savings account, let's say it was earning 4%, then after 15 years, you'd have $240,000 sitting there. That gives you a cash cushion. So let's say that you did go with a 30-year mortgage and you put that $977 away. You have $240,000 now. Let's say in the next 15 years, you ran into some cash flow problems along the way. No problem. You have the savings that you can pull from to cover a few months of those mortgage payments. Let's say that you ran into something else in life that you needed to finance. Maybe, God forbid, some medical bills. You would have the money to do that. On the bright side, maybe you run into a business opportunity that you can start a business and earn much more than the 4% that you would just simply earn on the savings.
So opportunity cost and apparent cost versus actual cost, those are all part of there is no free lunch, because there's always some hidden costs that you're either giving up or you're paying to someone else when you think you're getting something for a better deal than what actually it's going to be.
Yes. And there's always something called lost opportunity cost. If you choose to do one thing with your money, you're choosing not to do something else with your money. And it's good we can't obsess over this, because if you obsessed over lost opportunity, you're never going to do anything.
Absolutely.
But we want to consider it. When we're doing something with our money, we want to consider, is there something better that we could do with the money in the long run?
And so that makes me think right now there is something better than we could even do than a savings account like you're talking about.
Yes.
Instead, using the money you would put into a savings account into a whole life insurance policy. You build the cash cushion right there. You can access the funds to use for whatever you want to do. You have that cash cushion. You also don't give up the guarantees like you would with a savings account if you withdraw the money. Over here, you're borrowing against that money. And so you don't have as much opportunity loss there.
It's a way to recover lost opportunity. It's one of the few ways in the financial world that you can recover lost opportunity.
And of course, in this example, if that $977 is going into a policy every month and something tragic should happen to the breadwinner, if that policy is on their life, it's going to pay off the house, the death benefit.
And think about this. Is the bank more likely to take a house away when you're near the end of the mortgage and you miss a few payments? The house is almost paid off. They've almost got all their money back, and you miss a few payments. They come and they get the whole house. Are they more likely to do that, or are they more likely to take the house when you miss a few payments on the front end? You have a little more leniency at that time.
When I think of there's no free lunch, I also think about timeshare vacations. Oftentimes people will say, oh, I've got this free vacation. I'm going to go over the next 3 days. All I have to do is listen to a 90-minute presentation from a timeshare company. And while that might look like a free vacation, that is not a free vacation. You've got to commit to that time. Oftentimes it's over a breakfast, a free breakfast that they give you, and then you have to listen to this presentation. Not only is your time committed to that, then your time through the rest of your vacation, there is time in your head committed to that. Am I saying yes? Am I saying no? And recently I talked to a couple who went to one of those vacations at a timeshare at a resort in Mexico. And they were told by their friends, do not commit to don't buy the timeshare. And they really thought about it.
Even though they weren't planning to.
Even though they weren't planning to. And later she told me, you know what, I'm so glad we got sick the next day, because then we didn't go tell them, yes, we probably would have.
Wow.
And now I'm so glad because, and she named off several reasons why she was so glad she didn't commit to that, even talking about how they really didn't care for that resort very much. But here she was almost ready to commit, and that certainly would not have been a free vacation by any means.
So the timeshare really is sharing your time with the resort. If you go on one of those packages, you're sharing your vacation time with them because it eats up a big chunk of your time because you have to make these meetings.
We had another couple went on one of those vacations for their honeymoon, and they ended up coming back with, they already had debt, but now they had much more debt because they just couldn't say no. Here, this was their honeymoon place, and now they're presented, oh, you could come here every year to celebrate your anniversary. And, that's a lot of emotional things. And so that free vacation just really ended up not being free at all.
There's no free lunch.
So really what we're talking about here is a hidden cost. And there's always a cost to something. I think of what Paul told Timothy in the Bible. He said, if someone's not willing to work, they shouldn't eat. And that goes along with this, there is no free lunch, because that hidden cost is going to be paid, whether it's in interest on a mortgage, whether it's interest on a car payment. We're going to end up paying it. And that's going to mean that it's going to cost us something else in life that we could have done with that money or our time.
People often get worried about cost with insurance, and they say, oh, I should just buy term insurance. Or actually, it might be some sort of financial advisor that says you should just buy term insurance because it's cheaper. Well, it might look cheaper just at the beginning, but the overall cost is very different.
You never get anything back for the premiums that you put into term insurance unless you die.
You will die, but you have to die within that term period in order to collect that term life insurance.
I remember showing a term policy to a CPA for 10 years, and then showing them a whole life policy with the same death benefit as the term for 10 years. And in 10 years, the whole life policy had enough cash value in it that you had recovered all the cost bases, everything you paid for the whole life, but the term policy expired. And he said, why would anyone buy the term? You get your whole life for free because you get all your money back in 10 years. And so this idea that term is cheaper, yes, the premium for it is less, but it's going to cost you more in the end because your probability of dying in the term period that coverage is for is very low. Otherwise, the insurance company wouldn't sell it to you for such a low price.
And term insurance does have a place. We recognize that. But for long-term planning, long-term financing, for getting the most out of your premium dollars, definitely whole life insurance is better.
Though the idea behind buying term insurance is not that you're just going to buy term insurance, but that you're also going to invest the difference. That's not a guaranteed result that you get on that side, even if you hope to get a higher rate of return. But even if you get a higher rate of return, after taxes and fees, it might not be as high of a return as you were thinking it would be. But nonetheless, this thinking has been ingrained in the way that advisors think about people's money and the way that people think about their money, because you can see on the face of it that term insurance premiums are less than what whole life insurance premiums start out with. So that's an easy thing to gravitate, oh, I'll just go with the lesser option. When actually, if you put a little bit more into it, then you could actually get your money back out of it.
I'm thinking of 401ks right now. And, back in 1973, before IRAs and 401ks were even a thing, people were saving over 14% of their money that they were making. And the government came along and said, let's help people save. They're not saving enough. So they implemented the IRA, and later they implemented the 401k and the Roth. And savings today isn't anywhere near 14% anymore. It's somewhere around 4%. So did the government really help people do that? There's a cost to thinking that tax advantage that the government is going to give us is going to help us get something for free.
Yeah, you think you're getting the tax break from the government, which you are initially. They're not giving up their taxes on it. They're just going to tax you later on it, and that's
After it grows.
After it grows,
Supposedly.
Yeah, so the government will probably get more in tax revenue than if they went ahead and collected it today. But they're giving you something on the front end. So is that really a free lunch? Well, some people say, well, then my employer's giving me a match on it as well. Well, that's free money, isn't it? It is, but you are going to pay taxes on that money too someday. So is it really worth giving up your access to the money? That's the cost that this is coming at. There's no free lunch. You're giving up access during your working years, however long that is, up until age 59 and a half. That's what you're giving up.
That's the same way I think about these MAGA savings accounts for kids. Are we really helping somebody by giving every baby born in the United States $1,000 to put in a deferred savings account? Who is that money? Where's that money coming from? Is it going to make the economy better for the United States, or is it going to make it worse?
So Milton Friedman was right. There's no free lunch. When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about the other quote that he wished he was known for.
This is the Infinite Banking Made Simple binder. Everything you need to know about infinite banking in one spot. And it's a free download. Answers to the top commonly asked questions like what is infinite banking, how does it work, and how much does it cost to get started are answered right here. You'll find the step-by-step diagram starting on page 7 and the investment comparison on page 8. This Infinite Banking Made Simple binder is a free download. You can click the button to get your copy. At McPhee Insurance, we believe infinite banking has become too complicated and confusing, but it shouldn't be. And that's why we created this binder. Infinite banking is simple when you stick to the essentials and the facts. And the people who put it into practice get results. Don't let insurance terms like modified endowment contract, 7-pay test, direct recognition, and paid-up additions keep you from understanding infinite banking. Download the free binder and see how infinite banking can work for you.
As you heard earlier, Milton Friedman really wanted to be known for the line, "Nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as he spends his own."
And that makes me think of Congress. Congress votes all kinds of things in, not caring where the money's going to come from. It doesn't just come from their pockets, it comes from the pockets of all Americans.
And of course, Milton Friedman was saying that especially is good in this town, and he was in Washington, D.C. when he said that.
Yes. Recently, our daughters came back from the Saturday market. One of our daughters bakes sourdough bread, cinnamon rolls, and cookies, and they sell those at the Saturday market. And they were especially delighted with a little girl who came up to their booth and looked everything over and told her dad she had decided on a cinnamon roll. And he took her aside for a little lesson in economics. And he said, well, we gave you X amount of money this morning, and you've already spent, he named the amount, and now you want to spend this on the cinnamon roll. And he got out his fingers and they did the math of how much she would have left. And he said, are you happy with that? Well, she decided she was. And so she continued with her purchase of the cinnamon roll. And my hat's off to that father who explained the cost to his daughter in a way that she could understand. And many times as individuals, we need to look at the cost of what we're spending. It may be on a cinnamon roll or it may not be. It may be on a much larger purchase. But we need to think through our spending and decide, are we really going to be happy with this?
Even if people are frugal with their personal spending, many treat their financial strategy like a government budget. They trust other advisors to make the decisions for them. Now, there's nothing wrong with using the expertise of other advisors and asking them questions. You can use insurance agents, financial planners, and investment advisors, and we hope you do. You should be ultimately calling the shots because ultimately you will live with the results.
I think that's why we love the infinite banking so much, because it gives us that control. And that control is so important because, I'm making the decisions. I'm going to be the most careful with my money than anybody else will. And I'm responsible for it, and I'm going to live with the consequences. And so having that control allows us to make the decisions that are best for us, not best for our advisor, not best for the market, not best for, the person down the road, not best for the corporation that's managing all that money for us. It's us, personally.
Yeah, money is kind of a spiritual extension of you. So are you going to manage your money, or are you going to let someone else take that responsibility?
Yeah.
And because with infinite banking, we use whole life insurance policies, we have a baseline guarantee for how it's going to turn out. Now, we can make it turn out much better by what we do outside of the policy, but we still have that baseline guarantee.
And that's so important because so many people that have listened to the status quo of, the 401k is the only place to save money, or your IRA, or this or that, they end up getting into their 60s and near retirement, and they don't have near enough money to last the rest of their lifetime. So having control over that earlier allows us to have a better lifestyle along the way because it's not all locked up, like you mentioned earlier, John, until we're 59 and a half. And it gives us the ability to actually put more away so that when we can't work as hard and as long as we really desire to and are forced to retire, then we're going to have a more comfortable life as well.
This sounds like a free lunch. Why is it not? What are we putting into this to make it all work out?
It's because we're not expecting anything free. We're still putting the money out that it would have cost us any place else to do this. It's just that we're redirecting the flow of money. And that's what infinite banking is all about, is redirecting the flow of what we spend. So at least part of it, if not 100% of it, comes back to us.
Some people want to call our office and they want to know, what is the rate of return that I can get on my whole life insurance policy? And there's not a rate of return that applies every single year because the life insurance company, they give us guaranteed values. And there are non-guaranteed values that include some dividends if we're sharing in the profits of a mutual insurance company. That can change what the rate of return would be in any given year. But once we have those values, we can figure a rate of return backwards and say, what would have had to be the rate of return that we earned every single year to get to this point that we are today?
When people ask, what rate of return am I going to get on this policy? I said, if you're looking for rate of return, you die after you make the first payment. That's the highest rate of return you
Right.
get.
I don't know anybody who really wants that rate of return, though.
True.
Yeah. But when you figure a rate of return backwards like that, like what's the cash value today? What did I pay in premiums to get to this point? What would those premiums have had to earn? That's called an internal rate of return. It's after taxes, it's after fees, because that's what you can access today.
Infinite banking also gives us the legacy. It allows us to do all those things that we just talked about, have control, have access, recover the costs of things we purchase. And also, it lets us leave a legacy. And, people say, well, you're not going to need a death benefit when you get to 65 if you've bought term and invested the difference. That's not what we see. We see people all the time saying, oh man, I wish I would have bought whole life a long time ago because now I'm in my 70s and the cost of insurance is too high. People want to leave their footprint on this earth after they're gone. And life insurance, whole life insurance, is the very best way to do that.
This is something the internal rate of return calculation really doesn't take into account because it's just looking at the cash value. What do you have access to today? It doesn't take into account the fact that you purchased a death benefit.
That's right. And what other thing can you purchase in life and still use the money you used to purchase it with?
For those of you who are new listening to this, the way that this would work is after we funded a life insurance policy and it's built up cash value, it has a death benefit, we can take a policy loan to finance other opportunities in our life. There's a lot of examples around financing cars out there using a policy loan with the infinite banking concept. But it can also be business opportunities. It can be our future. It can be things for children. When we take a policy loan like that, then we pay it back just like we would have taken a loan from a bank or put it on a credit card. We would have to pay the bank back. So why not pay the life insurance policy loan back? When we do that, not only do we recover what would have gone to the bank in that case, okay, because we're paying back the principal, that goes back to the cash value when we pay back the policy loan. But now we also get to recover some of the interest that would have been paid to the bank because the policy continues growing just like there wasn't a policy loan outstanding.
It's absolutely true. There is no free lunch. And there's no doubt about it. You will spend your money more carefully than anybody else.
Many people think infinite banking is complicated because there's a lot of information online about it, but the core idea is really very simple. And the concept can keep more money in your pocket when you use it to manage your finances.
We have a new resource for you, Infinite Banking Made Simple Binder. It's a free download from our website, mcpheeinsurance.com. There's also a link in the description box below. You want to make sure you download this before next week because we're going to go through this binder in detail right here on Wealth Talk.